It was supposed to be just another ordinary Thursday afternoon, the kind of day where parents pull up in minivans, kids burst through school gates with backpacks bouncing and lunchboxes dragging, and the air smells like sun-warmed asphalt and crumpled homework. The bell had just rung at Lakewood Elementary, and a tide of laughing, sticky-fingered third graders flooded out to greet the world. And that's when the dog started barking. Not just barking, screaming in canine fury. Titan, a massive German shepherd in a black tactical vest labeled K9 Unit, launched into a frenzy like he'd caught the scent of something that didn't belong in this world. His bark cut through the playground chatter like a warning shot, eyes locked not on the chaos of children, but on a man. A man standing at the edge of the parking lot near the drop-off zone, with a smile too wide and a bag too full of free treats. At first, no one noticed. Parents were checking phones, teachers were herding kids, and the man had that rehearsed, forgettable look. Cap low, khakis, a blue polo with a delivery logo, no one questioned. Just another guy doing a nice thing, handing out cookies and juice, boxes in colorful plastic wrapping. But Titan knew better. His handler, Officer David Ruiz, almost didn't hold him back in time. The leash stretched to its limit. Titan's front paws clawing ATIT Titan had been through 6 years of narcotics detection, crowd control, and scent discrimination training. He'd once sniffed out a microdose of fentanyl hidden in a pack of gum. He didn't lose his mind over nothing. David's eyes finally landed on the man. That's when he saw it. The man wasn't looking at Titan. He was watching the kids, and his hand was in the bag again. David took 3 fast steps forward, voice low but firm. "Sir, can I ask what you're doing?" The man flinched. "Just handing out snacks. One of the parents asked me to bring some extras for the kids, thought I'd be nice." David's badge caught the light. "Do you have a delivery order?" The man hesitated, then gestured vaguely at a clipboard in the front seat of his van. "Yeah, in there. School staff knows." But David knew every scheduled delivery. This wasn't one of them. Behind him, Titan continued to growl, low and constant, his body stiff with alertness. David's gut twisted. It was the same gut instinct that told him once years ago to knock twice on a door that looked empty and found a missing girl inside. "Put the bag down," David said, stepping forward. "Now." The man's jaw flexed. His eyes darted. Van, sidewalk kids. Then he dropped the bag and ran. David didn't chase, he didn't need to. The van peeled off down the street, a license plate, a make and model, all caught by the cruiser's dash cam. Titan immediately broke from his stance and sniffed the bag. He circled it once, twice, then sat and stared at it. Alert posture. Scent confirmed. David radioed it in. "I've got a suspicious individual who fled scene, left behind a food bag that's setting off my K9. Request backup and forensic pickup." 10 minutes later, the bag was in evidence containment. 20 minutes after that, the school was placed under temporary security alert, though no formal lockdown. No panic, just precaution. But by then, David had already made the call to his captain. "I want to run a tox panel on every item in that bag." The results came in less than 24 hours later. Every cookie, every juice box, every brightly colored fruit roll-up tested positive for a compound cocktail of diphenhydramine and cyclobenzaprine, both legal, both easy to obtain, both capable of inducing extreme drowsiness, confusion, or unconsciousness in a child under 10 years old. It wasn't just suspicious, it was calculated. At home that night, David stood in the kitchen, watching Titan lie peacefully under the table, paws twitching in a dream. He reached down and ran his hand along the dog's back. "You knew," he whispered. "You always know." Titan's ears twitched, but he didn't move. David's wife, Sarah, leaned against the counter. "So what's next?" "Track the van, run every license plate hit, check for similar reports in nearby districts." Sarah frowned. "You think it's, what? A one-off?" David shook his head. "No. I think it's bigger, and I think Titan just caught the first thread. If you believe in the power of these amazing animals and their impact on saving lives, don't forget to subscribe to Heroes for Animals right here on YouTube. Stories like Titan's are happening every day, Help us share them. By Monday, the case was already gaining traction. 3 other schools across 2 neighboring counties reported incidents involving food giveaways by unidentified individuals. In one case, a child had to be hospitalized after ingesting a lollipop that left them disoriented and vomiting for hours. Surveillance footage in 2 of the districts showed different suspects, but eerily similar behavior. Same vans, same untraceable uniforms, same bags. David couldn't shake the feeling. They weren't dealing with a random predator. This was organized. That Tuesday, Titan was called in to scent trace a second abandoned van left near a rest stop. He picked up a hit instantly. Child-sized handprints on the back doors, blood traces under the rear bumper, and a toy bracelet still attached to the air vent inside. The van had been scrubbed of prints, but it hadn't been scrubbed of fear. Pieces began to fall into place. Quietly in the shadows of bureaucracy, the FBI got involved. Interpol flagged similarities to a cross-border child trafficking ring busted 2 years earlier in Eastern Europe. Same MO: disorient, abduct, relocate before parents even notice the delay. But here, in the heartland, David couldn't wrap his head around it. This was small-town America. Ball games, PTA meetings, Girl Scouts and lemonade stands. Not the kind of place where monsters in khaki polos hunt for kids under the guise of kindness. He walked past Titan in the station, who now sat alert near his kennel. "You pulled us into something real dark, buddy," he said, "but we're not backing out now." What no one knew, not yet, was just how deep the operation ran, or how many children had already vanished, or how long the predators had been rehearsing their part. But Titan knew. He'd seen the man. He'd smelled the fear behind the smile, and he was ready to chase it into the dark. The briefing room was too quiet. Detective Paul Summers adjusted the projector focus until the still image sharpened on the screen. A rust-colored van parked behind a gas station, license plate partially obscured by mud. In the passenger seat window, the faint outline of a silhouette. Small, hunched, possibly a child. This was taken 34 hours ago. Summers began. Rest. Stop off I-72 20 miles east of Springfield. Surveillance caught the vehicle pulling in, idling for 23 minutes, then disappearing northbound. He clicked to the next slide. Same make, same rust pattern, same route as the van Titan alerted. We recovered it abandoned behind an old lumber mill near the state line. Officer David Ruiz sat at the end of the table, arms crossed, Titan's leash wrapped around one wrist. The dog was resting at his feet, head between his paws, eyes half-lidded but alert. "Was there anyone inside?" David asked. Summers nodded, grimly. "No people, but we did find this." He held up a Ziploc bag. Inside, a child's bracelet, purple beads, little glitter hearts, a single cracked charm that read, "Hope." David sat forward. Where was it? Air vent, lodged tight. Someone didn't see it fall a beat past. The room was thick with a sense of something unspoken. "What about DNA?" asked Chief Morgan from the back. "Processing," Summers said. "Could take a few days." David leaned down, brushed Titan's ear. "We don't have a few days." Later, that evening, David stood in the evidence room, staring at the bracelet under the glow of a fluorescent bulb. Something about it hit hard, too personal. His own daughter used to make jewelry like that when she was 7. She's 17 now, off to college, safe. This kid probably wasn't. "Did you ever wear one of these, Titan?" he whispered, half to himself. Titan tilted his head, ears flicking. David slid the bag back into the evidence bin. They needed leads. And fast. At 6:45 the next morning, David met with federal agent Maya Ellison from Homeland Security. She was tough, smart, and didn't waste time on small talk. "This is bigger than we thought," she said, slapping down a file on his desk. "We cross-referenced recent reports of suspicious activity at elementary schools across 5 states. 12 matches. All involved unmarked food handouts near school grounds. 3 involved vans. 2 resulted in confirmed abductions." David whistled under his breath. "How long has this been going on?" Maya shrugged. "Hard to tell. This group's good. Rotating license plates, burner phones, fake delivery uniforms. They target underfunded districts, less security, more chaos at pickup time. And no one's talking? Kids think they're getting snacks. Parents think it's another food drive. By the time someone notices something's wrong, the van's 5 counties away. David tapped his pen against the desk. And the ones who did go missing? Maya flipped the folder. 3 still unaccounted for, ages 6 to 9. He stared at the photos. Then at Titan. We need to go back to that school, he said. Lakewood Elementary looked the same. Too normal. David walked the perimeter with the principal, Mrs. Glenna Ward, a tired woman in her 60s with a sharp tongue and a softer heart. I still can't believe this happened here, she said, shaking her head. I know every parent. I thought I did anyway. It's not your fault, David said. These people count on that, on routine, familiarity. Titan trotted ahead, nose low to the ground, tail straight out like a compass needle. David stopped, near the west fence. This where the van parked? Glenna nodded. He stood right over there near the old elm. Said he was with the PTA food fund. Titan paused at the tree, nose twitching. He sniffed along the bark, then barked once, sharply. David followed, crouched. There, half buried in the dirt, a torn piece of fabric. Neon green, like the edge of a uniform shirt. David bagged it. We'll run it. Maybe it matches one of the other sites. Titan barked again, this time from near the trash bins. David jogged over, heart thudding, stuck between the slats of yew. The chain-link fence was a laminated badge, delivery logo, no name, fake, but close enough to fool someone in a rush. Back at the precinct, Titan rested in his kennel while the evidence team went to work. David paced. Maya joined him. This is organized. Trafficking, she said, handing him a new folder. Multi-state, possibly international. Every item in that treat bag was traced to online orders made with prepaid cards and shipped to dummy addresses. She paused. And there's chatter. David looked up. Chatter? Encrypted forums? Someone's offering deliverables for high prices. Code words match the cities these vans hit. Someone's moving kids like inventory, David. His jaw clenched. How long do we wait before acting? He asked. We already are, Maya said. You and Titan just became point on this. 3 days later, a tip came in from a parent in a rural school district. A man matching the same description, delivery uniform, food bag, no proper ID, had been seen loitering outside a kindergarten. When approached, he left quickly in a white panel van. David and Titan were there within hours. The school had a basic camera system, enough to catch the van's license plate, partially covered again, but not fully this time. David ran the plate. It pinged. The van was seen again on a rural highway just outside the state line, headed toward a known trafficking route used years ago in a separate case. This time they had time to intercept. It was dusk when the sting operation unfolded. 2 patrol cars boxed the van in as it pulled into a rundown gas station near the edge of the highway. The suspect, mid-30s, sunburned, nervous, stepped out with hands raised, but David didn't approach immediately. He opened Titan's door. Go find, he said. Titan leapt out, nose low, circling the vehicle. He paused at the back doors, barked. Twice. David pulled the handle. Inside, a makeshift holding area. Water bottles, blankets, empty snack wrappers, and a small backpack, purple, with glitter. Call it in, David said. We've got confirmation. They're transporting them here. The man didn't talk. Not right away. But the forensics in the van spoke loud enough. 3 child DNA profiles. 2 matched recent missing persons cases. The third, unknown. Maya stood beside David as Titan drank water in the shade of the patrol car. You think they're holding the kids somewhere local? She asked. David nodded. That backpack was fresh. They stopped recently. Someone's still nearby. He looked at Titan. The dog's ears perked. The chase wasn't over. It was just beginning. It was always the same kind of place. Worn down siding, rusted out swing set in the back. A mailbox, hanging crooked on its last nail. The kind of house people drive past every day and never think twice about. But this one, this quiet house on an unmarked county road an hour outside Springfield, was about to become the center of something much bigger. Titan was the first to. Nona, the German shepherd, had been sniffing along the tree line behind the house for almost 10 minutes when he suddenly stiffened, nose in the air, tail raised. David Ruiz, standing by the squad SUV, straightened. "You got something, boy?" Titan barked once, then trotted toward a rotting shed behind the house. The boards creaked under his paws and his nose pressed against the door. David followed slowly, hand resting on his holstered weapon. 2 other officers flanked him, Maya close behind. The door creaked open with a low groan. Inside, it looked empty. Dust, tools, mold, but Titan was focused. He sniffed along the back wall, then began to paw at the floorboards. "Get the kit," David said. "We've got something underneath." They pried it open within minutes, revealing a trap door. Beneath it, a crude concrete cellar, no lights, no windows. And in the air, that same chemical trace, sweet, medicinal, faint, but familiar. Diphenhydramine, cyclobenzaprine. Drugged food. Down. In the cellar, Titan led the way with a flashlight strapped to his vest. His breathing was steady, ears twitching. David crouched behind him, sweeping the beam of his own flashlight along the walls. Then, movement. A rustle in the corner. A small cough. David turned sharply. There, in the shadows, were 2 children. A boy and a girl. Dirty. Pale. Eyes wide with fear. Titan lay down instantly, tail wagging slowly, his body language calm and gentle. David knelt beside them. "You're safe now," he said softly. "I'm with the police. This is Titan. He's going to make sure nothing hurts you ever again." The girl, no older than 7, reached out and clung to Titan's neck, and didn't let go. The recovery went quietly, the way it should have. No news vans. No cameras. Just blankets, hot drinks, and soft words. Maya debriefed the team while the paramedics checked the kids. Both were mildly dehydrated, undernourished, but alive. "They said they were taken 4 days ago," she told David. The van picked them up at a park, offered snacks. Next thing they knew, they woke up here. David's knuckles whitened. It was working. The food, the trick, the fake smile. Every single detail had been calculated. These weren't just random abductions, Maya added. They knew where to find kids who were momentarily unsupervised. Parks, parking lots, school dismissals. They studied routines. David watched as Titan nuzzled the boy's hand gently. "They underestimated the dog," he said. "The suspect they arrested at the gas station wasn't talking. But his phone had plenty to say. Encrypted apps. A hidden server folder labeled inventory. Inside it, dozens of blurry images, GPS pins, names, and what looked like auction codes. Human trafficking, Maya confirmed. They're not just moving kids across state lines, they're selling them to international buyers." David stared at the screen, anger rising like heat through his chest. "God help us," he muttered. "They're treating them like packages." Maya nodded grimly. "And the worst part? We've only scratched the surface." That night, David sat in his truck outside his house, engine off, watching the porch light flicker. Titan sat in the passenger seat, quiet as always. David exhaled. "When I signed up for this job, I knew we'd see hard things," he said softly. "But not this. Not kids being turned into product." Titan rested his head on David's knee, the simple comfort of loyalty in every breath. David reached down and scratched behind his ears. "You saved them," he whispered. "They'll never forget you for that." The following day, the team was called to a warehouse across state lines, tipped off by digital trail left in the suspect's phone. It was an old distribution center, officially shut down for years. Unofficially, it had been repurposed. When the task force arrived, the building looked abandoned. Windows cracked, rusted signage, but inside, Titan caught the scent before the team reached the loading bay. He barked, alerting everyone. Maya and David exchanged a glance. "We go now." Officers swarmed the facility. What they found wasn't just another holding space. It was a full-scale operation. Office rooms converted into intake centers. Lockers labeled with numbers, not names. Walls lined with bags of children's clothes, toys, toiletries, and an underground room accessed by freight elevator, where 6 more children were found. 2 were unconscious. They shut it down. The rescue made headlines across 5 states, but David refused to give a single quote. "It's not about us," he told Maya. "It's about every single kid who's still out there." Titan was awarded a commendation that week. The mayor handed it to David, but the shepherd got the real applause. In a small ceremony outside City Hall, parents, teachers, and kids clapped and cheered as Titan wagged his tail, proudly wearing his K9 vest. One of the little girls they'd rescued, Emily, walked right up to him with a stuffed bear and placed it at his paws. "Thank you, Titan," she whispered. He licked her cheek. But even in celebration, David couldn't let his guard down. Because Maya was right. They were only at the beginning. The FBI's deeper investigation was uncovering layers, front companies, forged delivery networks, and recruitment forums on the dark web teaching traffickers how to blend in, how to make friends with parents, how to never approach groups, only isolated targets. One file in particular haunted David. It showed an aerial map with schools marked in red. Dozens, spanning the Midwest. His heart sank. "We're not just dealing with a single ring," he told Maya. "This is a network, a pipeline, and they're not done." She nodded. "No, but neither are we." That night, a news anchor wrapped up the story with a closing line. And if not for the sharp senses of a trained K9, this story might have ended much differently. Titan, the German Shepherd hero, has become a symbol of hope in a case that has rocked communities across state lines. David turned off the TV. He looked at Titan, sleeping at the foot of the couch, still wearing his vest. "You're not just a hero," he murmured. "You're the reason we even saw the cracks." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, another storm coming, but they were ready, because sometimes it only takes one bark to shatter the silence. The tip came in at 3:12 a.m. David Ruiz was asleep. On his couch, a half-eaten TV dinner on the coffee table, Titan curled at his feet. The phone buzzed once, then again. By the third buzz, David was already reaching for it. "Ruiz," he said groggily. Maya's voice cut through the static. "We found another one." David sat up instantly. "Where?" "South of St. Louis. Abandoned textile warehouse. It's not on any recent commercial maps. But guess what? The phone data from the suspect you arrested? His GPS pinged there, twice." David was already grabbing his boots. "Is this a raid?" he asked. "It will be," Maya said. "We're coordinating with local PD now. I want you and Titan there, before dawn." David looked down at the dog, who was already standing, alert. "I'll drive," he said. "We don't wait anymore." By 5:25 a.m., they were parked on the edge of a weedy service road. The warehouse ahead of them was huge, its corrugated steel walls covered in graffiti, windows blacked out, padlocked fences stretching in both directions. Maya met him at the perimeter in full tactical gear. 2 heat signatures inside, she said. "We're guessing guards or handlers. No sign of kids yet." David clipped Titan's vest securely and adjusted his earpiece. "He'll go in first. Standard search protocol. Let him do the talking." Maya gave a curt nod. "Be careful. If this is what we think it is, we're walking into a hub, not just a storage site." The team breached the side entrance with silent precision. Titan went first, sweeping down the hallway, nose twitching. David followed with his weapon drawn, heart hammering, not from fear but focus. The building reeked of mildew, rubber, and something else. Chemical, artificial. The deeper they moved, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a warehouse. It was a staging area. Children's shoes lined the wall of one room, blankets all folded and stacked. bottles of liquid melatonin, over-the-counter sleeping aids, and empty snack wrappers. Maya whispered into her mic. They were prepping them here. This is where they softened them before transport. David clenched his jaw. In another room, Titan stopped short. He growled, a low, simmering sound. David raised his hand. Then they heard it. A thump from beneath the floor. They found the trapdoor under a pile of old rugs. It led to a service basement. Musty, cold, reeking of bleach and rust. Titan descended slowly, his breathing tense, ears pricked forward. At the base of the stairs there were 3 doors. Titan stopped at the one on the far left. David turned the knob. The room was dark, but occupied. 4 children, all under 10, curled on mattresses, quiet, unmoving, but alive. Maya called in medical teams while David knelt beside them, checking pulses, whispering reassurances. Titan lay beside one boy, pressing close to his side, providing warmth and protection. They're okay, David said softly. We got here in time. But then came the sound of a distant door slamming. They weren't alone. The chase was fast. 2 men dressed like janitors tried to slip out the back. One was tackled by local officers. The other made it past the fence until Titan intercepted him. David didn't need to give a command. Titan launched across the gravel, bringing the man down hard, teeth bared but controlled. David caught up seconds later, gun raised. Don't move, he barked. You're done. The man whimpered under Titan's weight. I just cleaned. I didn't take nobody. David knelt. But you knew. The man nodded slowly. They pay cash. Said no one gets hurt. Just keep the lights off. Make it quiet. David looked at Titan. No one gets hurt, huh? He said. Tell that to the kids. Back at HQ, the children were being cared for by a mobile trauma team. Maya walked into the conference room, a hard look on her face. We got a name, she said. The guy Titan took down. Real name's Ellis Dean. Known alias in 2 states. He used to work security in a juvenile facility. Got fired for misconduct. David rubbed his forehead. Of course he did. And get this, Maya continued. He's connected to a shell company registered in Arizona. That same company owns 3 other warehouses, just like the one we found. David stared. How many kids do you think have already been through these places, he asked. Maya didn't answer. She didn't have to. Later that night, David sat with Titan in the quiet of his backyard. A cool breeze stirred the trees. His phone buzzed. Another update from forensics, another lead. But he let it ring. Tonight, he needed silence. Titan sat close, his head resting on David's knee. You did good, buddy, David murmured. Every kid you save, that's a life that gets a second chance. Titan thumped his tail. David looked up at the stars. You ever wonder why we even need dogs to stop this stuff? He asked. How broken does a person have to be to look at a child and see profit? Titan didn't answer, but the question hung in the air. The next morning, Maya stormed into the station. We've got a breach, she said. Someone leaked our investigation targets. The shell companies are pulling out. They're burning sites before we can get to them. David stood. They're covering their tracks. They're scared, Maya said, because we're getting close. Any leads on the source of the leak? Not yet, but we traced another vehicle, last seen in Iowa. Different license plate, but same driver ID'd from a photo outside Lakewood Elementary. David grabbed Titan's leash. Then, let's go. They drove 8 hours across state lines, no sirens, no lights. Just focus. Titan sat in the back seat, eyes scanning the road, body tense. They stopped at a rest stop outside Cedar Rapids. A white delivery van sat near the back lot. Windows fogged, engine running. David approached carefully. Titan growled, deep and low. David drew his weapon. Step out of the vehicle. No movement. He moved closer, Maya flanking him. Then the door opened. A teenage boy stumbled out, dazed, maybe 15, hands trembling. He looked at David, confused. They said I'd get money, he said, for helping deliver snacks to kids. David's blood ran cold. "Who said that?" he asked. The boy looked back at the van. No one else inside, but in the back they found more treat bags, laced, tagged, boxed, ready for delivery. It wasn't over, not even close. But that night, David stood in front of a classroom at Lakewood Elementary, not as a cop but as a dad. He faced a room of parents and teachers. "We can't rely on instincts alone," he said. "Titan caught something we couldn't, but we all have a role. Know who's around your school, double-check handouts, teach your kids to say no to strangers, even the friendly ones." He paused, looking down at Titan lying at his feet. "And remember, it wasn't a tip line or a drone or a background check that saved these kids." He smiled. It was a dog. The room applauded, and outside, somewhere in the dark, the people who hurt children were packing up and running scared. Because they knew now, Titan was coming for them. They needed to set a trap. After weeks of rescues, raids, and peeling back the layers of an international trafficking network, the trail had started to dry up. Whoever was running things had gone deeper underground, switching phones, ditching known routes, cutting all digital traces. But David Ruiz knew one thing for sure: they weren't done yet, and neither was he. In a closed-door meeting at the Springfield Joint Task Force headquarters, David stood in front of a whiteboard cluttered with names, maps, and mugshots. "They're adapting," he said, tapping his marker against a cluster of pins. "Which means they're still operating, still taking kids, we just can't see it now." Agent Maya Ellison crossed her arms. "We're blind, the last warehouse was burned. 2 more were cleaned out before we got there. But we still have a pattern," David said. "The food drops, the vans, the same uniforms, the same delivery fronts. They're using routine as camouflage." The room went quiet. Then David said it. "We offer them a routine." The plan was simple in theory, dangerous in execution. Using intel from recent digital chatter on hidden forums, Maya's team crafted a believable digital breadcrumb trail, a new school in a low-security district, a food relief campaign coordinated by a volunteer group, and loose oversight, all the elements that had tempted traffickers before. They planted a fake parent page, online filled it with photos of kids all modeled and safely staged, and spread the story through channels the network had been known to scout. Then they waited. David volunteered to be on site. So did Titan. It was a warm Thursday morning when David pulled into the parking lot of Hollow Creek Elementary, an old brick building in a rural county outside Peoria. The sky was cloudless, the breeze light and the quiet buzz of school life filled the air, but everything was monitored. Every angle of the perimeter was under surveillance. Agents disguised as teachers, plainclothes officers posing as parents, and Titan, sitting near the gates with David, his posture calm but alert. It had been 3 days since they launched the decoy. On day 4, the van showed up. It pulled in, slow, white, clean, generic, just like the others. The man driving wore a green polo and khakis. His badge said Fresh Bites Nutrition Aid. He smiled as he stepped out, carrying a cooler of individually wrapped snacks and juice boxes. "Morning," he called to a group of kids near the gate. "Got some treats today for your lunch boxes, David's." Blood ran cold. Titan growled. David stood, hand resting on his belt. He walked toward the man, acting casual. "You with the district?" David asked. The man didn't miss a beat. "Just volunteering with the food drive. Parent organization out of Bloomington. New program. Helps rural schools." David smiled thinly. "Got ID?" The man hesitated. "Not on me, but I'm just dropping off." David didn't let him finish. He gave a subtle hand signal. Within seconds, 4 undercover agents closed in from all sides. The man froze. But before anyone could cuff him, he bolted, leaping over the cooler, sprinting for the van. Titan was faster. He launched forward with a snarl, tackling the man to the pavement in seconds, teeth bared but controlled. The man screamed. Titan held him until officers cuffed him. David pulled the cooler open. Inside, granola bars, apple slices, cookies, all laced with trace amounts of a custom sedative compound. the lab would later identify as similar to veterinary tranquilizers. Designed for fast onset in children under 80 pounds. Back at HQ, the suspect refused to speak. No ID, no prints in any system, a complete ghost. But his phone? That was a different story. Hidden beneath layers of encryption, the task force uncovered a real-time messaging system, and someone was watching. "Look at this," Maya said, pulling up a chat log. They knew we were at Hollow Creek. They were watching through the driver's phone camera before he got taken down. David stared at the screen. "They're testing us," he muttered. "They knew it was a trap. They sent him in anyway." Maya nodded slowly. "Or they wanted him to get caught, to distract us." David looked up. Oh no. 3 hours later, the call came from Missouri State Police. A second van had been spotted at a real school, Millstone Elementary, 45 miles away. No surveillance, no warning, and now one child was missing. A girl named Haley Jensen, 8 years old, brown hair. Last seen by the playground after lunch recess. Her backpack had been found near the school's outer fence. David drove like hell to get there. Titan stood alert in the back seat, pacing with tension. They arrived just after dusk. The school was roped off with police tape, officers interviewing terrified parents. David walked past them, straight to the backpack. Titan sniffed it once and took off. David followed. Through the fence, down an embankment, into a wooded trail behind. The school no one had checked yet. Titan barked once, then again, and that's when they heard it. A muffled scream. They found Haley tied to a tree, duct tape over her mouth, arms bound but otherwise unharmed. Tears streamed down her face. She was alone, but not for long. David knelt, gently cutting the tape. Titan stood beside her, licking her cheek as she cried into his fur. "You're okay," David whispered. "He found you. You're safe." Officers swept the area. Whoever had taken her had fled, likely tipped off, but they left evidence behind. Burner phone, a camera, and a message scratched into the tree bark. "You're getting close, but not close enough." Later, back at the station, David sat silently as Haley's parents hugged her tight. Titan lay at David's feet, breathing steady. Maya entered, holding a printout. "You're going to want to see this," she said. She laid it down in front of him. It was a satellite image taken hours ago of a remote farmhouse near the Illinois-Kentucky border. The heat signature inside the barn showed at least 5 people. 4 were significantly smaller than the 5th. "Another holding site?" David asked. Maya nodded. "Looks like it. But this one's heavily shielded. Surveillance jammers, booby-trapped access roads. Someone's protecting this place with intent." David looked down at Titan. "Then we hit it hard," he said. "No," Maya said. "This isn't just another rescue." She leaned closer. "This is where the orders come from." That night, David sat outside with Titan under the stars again, the wind colder than usual. "This next one's going to be different," he said. "They're waiting, and they're ready." Titan nuzzled his arm as if to say, "So are we." David closed his eyes. "We're bringing it all down," he whispered. "For every kid they took. For every one we couldn't save. Because the hunters had become the hunted." And Titan was already on the scent. The sun was just beginning to rise when the convoy rolled down the back roads of southern Illinois. Fog clung to the tree line like a veil. The wind smelled of cold dirt and wet hay. A barn stood at the edge of the horizon, quiet, still, and harmless to anyone who didn't know better. But David Ruiz knew better. So did Titan. Inside that old farmhouse, tucked away behind layers of cornfields and barbed wire, was what they believed to be the center of the child trafficking operation they'd been chasing for months. The orders, the routes, the sedatives, the vans. This was where it all started, and if they were right, there were still children inside. Maya stood beside David in full tactical gear. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were sharp. We've got thermal readings, she said. 5. Inside. 1 adult, 4 smaller bodies. Motion sensors confirm at least 2 kids are awake. David gave a short nod. Team A breaches from the west. We'll enter through the barn, he said. Titan's with me. He crouched to adjust the straps on Titan's vest. The dog stood still, focused, eyes locked on the barn like he already understood everything. You ready, partner? David whispered. Titan licked his hand once. That was all he needed. They moved fast. Officers surrounded the property. Drones hovered above. The communications van pinged off radio jammers and countered them in real time. David and Titan took point. Through the barn entrance, it reeked of gasoline, mold, and old hay. But beneath it all, something darker. That same faint, chemical sweetness. Sedatives. They were close. Titan led him down the far side of the barn. A set of fresh boot prints in the mud. A trapdoor, metal, reinforced, not original. David radioed in. Entry point located, preparing to breach. Copy, came Maya's voice. Go on your mark. David gripped the handle, breathed deep, and pulled. It opened into a narrow hallway, concrete floor, low ceiling, poorly lit with flickering overhead bulbs. Titan's ears twitched. His breathing changed. Movement ahead. David raised his weapon. Anyone down here, show me your hands. Silence. Then, footsteps. Heavy ones. Running. Titan growled and charged. David followed, heart hammering, boots slapping against concrete. Around the corner, a man in black sprinted toward a steel door. He reached into his jacket. Gun! David shouted. Titan launched. He hit the man mid-stride, knocking him to the ground. The pistol skidded across the floor. David was on him in seconds, cuffing his wrists behind his back. The man spit blood and curses. You don't get it, he sneered. You think this ends here? We're everywhere. David didn't flinch. Not anymore. The steel door led to a locked room. Inside, 4 children. Blank stares. Pale, but alive. Titan stepped in first, calm and slow, tail wagging gently. One of the girls, maybe 6 years old, burst into tears and wrapped her arms around his neck. David swallowed hard. You're safe now, he whispered. You're going home. Outside, the sun had burned through the fog. Officers walked the perimeter. Medics carried the children to waiting ambulances. One of the boys refused to let go of Titan's vest until he was assured Titan would be okay too. Maya pulled David aside, holding a sealed evidence bag. Inside it, handwritten ledgers, dozens of names, destinations, prices. It was everything they needed. We got it, she said. The whole network, this is their hub. It's over. David looked at the kids being lifted into the ambulance. He didn't say anything for a while. Then, not over, but it's a start. The media descended fast, but the department kept the operation quiet to protect the children. No press conferences, no headlines with names. But Titan, he made the front page anyway. Hero K9 cracks human trafficking ring. The local paper read with a photo of him sitting beside the kids. David didn't want the fame. Neither did Titan. But they understood the importance. People needed to know. A week later, they returned to Lakewood Elementary, where it had all begun. David stood in front of the same chain-link fence where Titan had first barked at a stranger, handing out snacks. This time there were banners, hand-drawn posters, and a crowd of kids holding signs that said, "Thank you, Titan." Titan trotted into the playground like he owned the place. He stopped when a small girl stepped forward and held out a cookie. "This one's safe," she said seriously. "My mom made it." Titan sniffed it carefully. Then he ate it. The crowd laughed. David crouched beside him. "He doesn't need a medal," he said. "He just needs to know he made a difference." That evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, David sat on his porch with Titan beside him. They didn't talk. They didn't need to. But in the stillness, David thought about every child they'd saved and every one they didn't get to. He reached down and scratched Titan's ear. "You're more than a partner," he said quietly. "You're the reason we got this far." Titan let out a long sigh, laid his head on David's foot, and closed his eyes. David looked up at the stars, then toward the road. Because somewhere, someone else might still be waiting for help. And if that call came, they'd answer it, just like they always had. Together. Thank you for following Titan and David's journey through this powerful emotional story. If this story moved you, inspired you, or opened your eyes to a deeper truth, we're grateful you took the time to join us. Now we'd love to hear from you. Do you believe that dogs like Titan are more than just animals? That they're true heroes in our communities? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe to Heroes for Animals for more real emotional stories that celebrate the animals who protect and inspire us.